Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. The message was clear. It is time. Time to meet upon this sacred mountain, to share what we hear, feel, and see. Time to bring the wisdom of the divine to a world that is yearning for its guidance. Through OracleFest, we've created a movement of community, all yearning to empower their own inner oracle. And here in Oracle Mountain Chats, we bring that spirit into a more intimate space. This is where the oracles gather to reflect, exchange ideas, and to explore what wishes to come through in the moment. This mountain is more than stone and sky. It is a meeting place of the realms, a threshold between seen and unseen, known and unknown. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present. All right, here we find ourselves atop Oracle Mountain once again. And this time we are joined by Toni Ghazi, who is a just beautiful soul, I will also say. Just, yeah, such warm energy. We always love that. You can be, whatever temperature you like, but I prefer warm. And so Toni Ghazi is representing the Antarean heart and channels Praying-Mantis Beings, which, hey, have you ever heard of that? Most likely not, right? That's probably what Toni finds. Oh, I love it. Yes, I had to come into focus. Amazing, amazing. So I have met some praying mantis beings in non-ordinary spaces, but I am so, in the 3D here, and I'm going to try and stand in the 3D also to represent all the folks who are just here going, what the heck is this? So what the heck is this, Toni?
Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for having me here. You know, what the heck is this? Very simple way. It's all part of creation. This, whatever this new insectoid aspect of myself, which is really aspects of all of us because we're infinite, is simply emerging to allow us to know there's more beyond what we think this matrix is, what we were told. So, a beautiful connection. My whole story is kind of crazy, like any other crazy story that every other being has. I'm not a special crazy story. But my story is my story, and it's quite interesting. My acceleration was quite fast. I awoke exactly when COVID happened. Although I'm like looking back now, I've been awakening, and we all do, and our whole life is really like a big awakening, like soup. But I can see these little breadcrumbs, very tiny breadcrumbs that have been like seeded and planted that were there right in my face, slapping me around, blind to it. But
Mm-hmm.
now that I've awoken, I can see, oh, I actually have been awakening for a long time. But exactly when COVID hit, when my consciousness like opened up, all kinds of synchronicity. I didn't even know what like synchronicities meant or was, but all like began happening. And a year and a half after that is really when I stepped into a new version of me that says I speak to insectoid beings, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm taking the storm, I'm taking the stage by storm, whatever that word is,
Yeah.
truly, out of excitement.
Hmm.
No expectation where I'm going, have no idea what I'm going to be tomorrow. I am embracing the unknown, embracing not to know where the next step will lead, because as I go on the path and allow the unknown to gift me what I don't know, it's a much better experience than playing out a story in my head, things will expect to happen and disappointing yourself in a sense, or whatever, or like getting yourself like also excited. So I'm really beginning to live my life from a very expanded way. I grew up in lack. Like I grew up with a poor family, and I don't talk about that a lot. And now I'm hearing, why didn't you mention that on the other 20 million podcasts you've been on? Because it's important for people to know that regardless of what denomination, how you grew up, whether you're rich or poor, whatever it is, whatever your story is, I came from a lot of lack in like disempowerment and everything's outside of you. And I grew up Orthodox Christian, and I believed in Mother Mary and in Jesus and all the saints that you can ever imagine, and believed in all the other like deities, Krishna and Buddha and Taoism, like every other exterior like divine like deity. I placed emphasis on, and I put my power to it, and disempowering myself and saying, you changed my life, you helped me, you assist me. And I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for years.
Hmm.
Why? Because we're taught and we're conditioned to do that. But when you awaken, you realize all these deities are you. They're inside your heart, they're part of you, they emanate from you, there's no separation. And I'm just kind of really being quite general like with this, but that's kind of a quick like synopsis of my you know awaken journey. And there's a lot of details with aliens and UFOs over my house. I live in Washington, D.C., in the capital of the US. Literally, I have videos after videos during the day and at night, and all kinds of synchronicities. And I'm happy to talk about how like the praying mantises like really came to me during a like past life regression, and the fact that I stutter. That's a really key thing, because that's what allowed me to know that I'm channeling. Because when I channel, when I'm in the channel state, I don't stutter, and I've stuttered all of my life. Still
That's
do
amazing.
after
Is it
44 years.
a strange sensation? Because, yeah, I imagine it would almost be like a comfort. The stutter becomes like this, like rhythmic kind of comfort that your body's used to. And so to be just like not with that, come back and then go, wait, what just, like, yeah.
Like, listen, that was my proof. Like, I don't. Jesus could come, Source could come, praying mantis could come, great aliens could come, please, all the beings could come and say whatever they want to say. Doesn't matter. What I just experienced, the fact that I have free speech, because I've been
Mm,
a prisoner of my throat for all these years. There were many times I actually like failed at a job. I like didn't get a job because I really started so bad that the people felt, and I could see in their eyes how bad how they disempowered me. Because like when I started in that moment, I went through a tunnel vision. I was like sweating. I couldn't get a word. I go like
yeah.
it was the most debilitating feeling anyone can have, and any stutterer like will know how that feels. And I've struggled with this since I was a child. And I am 44 like years old now, and I kind of judge myself that I'm unable to speak the way I want to speak, right? Because there are certain words I would like to use like in a sentence, and I don't use them because I know like my name, I can't just say my name like just by itself. It has to have like a word before it. It just won't come out,
Mm,
which is
mm,
crazy. And
mm.
what often happens, and they ask, "What's your name?" I'm like, "Fuck." And the word, I mean, it was very like debilitating, like prison.
Mhm.
So when I began channeling, my first exercise when I was trying channeling is when I didn't, and that was the only proof I needed that whatever just occurred, I don't care if you call it channel, trans channel, this and that, all the labels is real, and I ran with it. It allowed me this freedom that I've been seeking. I went to doctors and therapists, and I did my own techniques and blah 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 blah. But within all that craziness, I had a knowing that my channel was quite open, but without like knowing I was open. That so much flow was coming through that my like physical like vessel isn't able to process
Mm-hmm.
information that's coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had many channel sessions with all kinds of channelers and psychics, and like a few of them like did hit on like that idea that because there's so much information like coming through and you're trying to you are trying to catch up to the speed of the flow. It's not flowing the way that it wants to. You need to surrender in the flow itself, and I think that's what happens in the channeling state. And I just realized that as I'm speaking, that I've never like said it this way, that I need to surrender in the speed of the flow when I'm not in the channeled state, to allow it to flow the way that it's meant to, not to restrict it in a sense with my mind.
Mm-hmm.
um,
And what a beautiful new way of looking at something that used to be this gate barrier and sort of blockade from you and your truth to then maybe just slip and sliding into your truth, oh, suddenly pandemic hits, we're in this other state of conscious awareness. And then, oof, oh, the suffering also left with that. The block also had to leave because it wasn't impeded by the suffering, right? And so like what an amazing learning lesson. And I would imagine, as I think about all the suffering in our whole world, casual thought crossing my mind, I think of the amount of people who also struggle with speech, who maybe learning channel access could be a way through some of that healing for them, just as much as any of these other things. Hey, just a thought.
I love that thought. I've never thought of that. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that's amazing.
yeah,
Thank you for saying that. Like,
of
that's a
course.
cool way. Like, I literally have never thought of that. Even though I'm the experience, like you have for
uh,
abductees or whatever, you're an
I get
experience.
it.
I'm an experience of the stuttering, the abduction of my own voice, really.
Yeah.
That would be a cool book to write, Abduction of My Own Voice.
That's basically what you're describing.
Totally. And it just so like you see guys, and like this for the audience, when you really dialogue from the heart and from truth and not like worrying about how you're going to be seen and allowing the fear and the doubt to creep in, you come up with cool ideas.
Yeah, we
Truly.
actually had a very, very minor conversation. Contrary to every other, chat that I do here, usually we're getting into the chat before we actually start the recording. And today we were like, we trust it. Let's just go. Let's just do this and see. And I do think that is also more natural because that is kind of what you're doing. Hey, let's just do this and see. Is actually what was happening to you, but almost by force. And so I think sometimes when there's a perceived state of like, oh, that person has really opened up, that person's like way more awake or conscious or something than I am,
Yeah.
usually there's been like a crack open.
Yeah.
Usually there's been a bit more of like an exposure, is what it kind of feels like. It can feel a bit raw. Like I'm actually curious now in that container of when this was starting to come through for you and it was pandemic, of course we were isolated a lot. And so I think a lot of people woke up in that time because they had this like protection of, they don't like, I could dance however I want in my room because no one's looking at me. I chopped my hair because Joan of Arc came and spoke to me early on in the pandemic. I was doing tons and tons of channel writing. I similarly to you was like, I've never been just isolated from people, and I would understand a lot of who I was through that. So without that interruption of thought, there was a whole amount that could just come through because I wasn't guarding it. And because there was this container of safety energetically, I think.
Yeah.
And in that time, Joan of Arc was like telling me about my ancestry. My Scottish ancestry is very important to my spiritual journey, which is why I was living in Scotland. And she said to me, like, she reworded basically our clan motto because I hated how violent the history of, well, our whole world is.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult for me to reconcile who am I in my family line if I don't really vibe with this whole never forget what we went through. And there was something really harsh about all of the war, the military connections.
Yeah.
And she said, well, it's all about never forgetting your truth. and what's true for you. And that was true for them in their time. And now it's what's true for you. Joan of Arc about holding a vision. And then she came through saying, oh, and you should cut your hair. That's the last thought. Oh, and you should cut your hair. There was like a freeing of all the beings I had been in my mind, all these chapters, right?
Totally, totally. And you brought me chills 3 or 4 times throughout this whole
Oh,
conversation. I just want to say that. And I yawned. And like, by the way, guys, when you yawn or when you like burp, a lot of energy is coming through.
yeah,
So
it's like taking things in. I always see that.
very,
Yeah.
very. Because I had a session last night. I had a few like channeling sessions. In like this one session, literally I yawned like 10 times. Drew, as I'm channeling, I'm going, like it
Yeah.
was so much energy walking through. And normally I don't yawn that dramatic. It was very dramatic. Like I should have won the Oscar. I should have won the Oscars that evening because so much
The
fucking
Oscar for
drama.
yawns. We'll
Totally.
make a new category just for you.
Totally, totally. But I want to say it's crazy that you mentioned Joan of Arc because that's my clue to mention this, and I don't mention this often on any of the podcasts. So I have a daughter, I have a husband, but I also have a daughter that lives in Melbourne, Australia. And the first channeling class that I took online on Zoom, it was like 6 people like in there. I met my best friends, like in a sense. It was an amazing first channeling class where like three of the people out of the six, and I was out of the six, right? We all became, it's like Nicolette Morgan, like travels with me all over. And then like Mike Shower, we all learned how to channel together. And then Ash reached out to me. They were, again, this is a like 6 week program where like we meet once or twice a week it was, and we just practice channeling. Brand new people all over the world. Um, I don't know her, and then like she doesn't know me. But after the third class, I get an email like from her, ask a long email, apology, you're gonna think I'm crazy, please say no, don't feel pressured, da 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 da. I just want to express my whatever. I love your energy. I've been looking for a sperm donor. Are you willing to like donate your sperm? I know nothing about like women's biology. I'm gay. I never had interest like sexually in the woman body part. So I don't know anything about how women produce or eggs, embryos, and all the other stuff that you guys like go through. But within the world of like donating sperm, it's all
Yes.
about that. So
It's a
I
lot
learned
about that. Yeah.
very. But listen, but within 10 minutes, I have the timestamp of the email. When I received it, it was like 7:24 a.m. my time, and it was whatever time in Australia. I There was knowingness
Mm.
that you begin to kind of know that it's an I just as I'm reading the email, she's like, we can write contracts, you have to be like she's trying to make me feel good that you have no responsibilities. If you're willing to donate your sperm, I'll see if I can make a baby, and you don't have to be in her life. You can't, whatever you want, right?
Mhm.
It was a knowingness of yes,
Mm.
immediate. I said, I'm not worried about financial this. I'm not worried about contracts. I don't live like that. These are all like limitations in my mind. Let's do it. And within a year, all kinds of blood testing and like
Mm.
speaking to Victoria State and like some attorneys involved explaining embryos and rights and freezing this and freezing that. And after that and destroying this, I'm like, oh my God, do whatever you want. Like, it doesn't matter. If there's more of me out there, so what?
Mhm.
I, I'm gonna transition in 40, 50 years. I'm not that worried,
Right.
Anyhow, and a baby is born, an amazing, amazing young soul. But
Mm.
the whole story, I'm sorry, is the mom, Ash, channels Joan of Arc.
No way.
I swear to God, like, no, I've never heard anybody. So the fact that you do, I really want to connect you guys together because I'm sure you
Please
have.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
My
she's a professor. She does, I think, political science at some university or
cool.
something, but she channels too.
Very
Super.
cool. I
Yeah.
love that. I also love when people are in politics and also open and aware. I mean, hey, this is a
She's
great thing.
like,
Yeah.
she's very like woo-woo alien, like very
Amazing.
non-3D, but yet uh, and I think she's a therapist or some other thing. Like
Cool.
she's quite gifted. But the Joan of Arc thing, that was
So
my kind of,
funny. And I had never told any of these empath energetics folks, this intuition development program that I teach, I'd never told any of them about this time in my life and what was coming through. And then this round, so this last round, round 7, one of the gals just posted out of nowhere in our group chat, like, hey, has anyone noticed Kate looks a lot and is a lot like Joan of Arc? And put like a painting of Joan of Arc and me looking similar. Oh, it's so funny. So funny. So funny how like I can be carrying that in my heart and it just somehow beams outward, even though I hadn't even shared this is such a personal thing. And that's why I
wow,
cut my hair, but I didn't like say that online.
totally.
So funny. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It makes
What
you
a
feel
beautiful,
at home, like closer to the world.
Yeah, and like what a beautiful reflection for you to see
Mhm. Yes.
that what you're trying to embody, connect with, whatever,
Yeah.
others can see. That was your communication back to you to say, "Oh, okay, I really did." Not that you ever doubted your connection, but it's a
Oh
beautiful
no,
extra
we still,
confirmation.
yeah, we got a human mind,
Yeah,
ticking away in there and
yeah,
challenging what we know on a soul level always. Actually, I think it's such an important voice. I say when I'm journeying, there's often this sort of narrator, bumbling version of me
yeah,
that's narrating kind of chaotically, actually, even though I think I come across as a bit more calm in life. But in my mind, I'm this little Aries. So I'm bolting around everywhere. I'm running around and I gotta go see this thing. And what's happening here? And how come he's not explaining this? And and those things are so important, right?
yeah.
Like Kate, tries running off a cliff, is unsuccessful, comes back, narrator
Yeah.
keeps me humble.
You know what just reminded me of? Like you know how you watch a movie, like a funny movie, and like somebody like trips, but like they're pretending they didn't trip. Like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. You
Yeah.
know, this is like in your mind you look fine, but inside you're like tripping and falling and
Honestly.
bleeding, and I'm
Yeah.
okay, and you have one arm, and you're like, I'm fine, and then you
That's
pass out.
it. Just a flesh wound, like Monty Python reference. And I think there's so many times in my life where I've really been trying to keep myself to like a high standard and like,
Yeah,
performing
yeah,
and just trying to, fit in and achieve that. I quite like this humorous way of like, I do not have everything figured out and I'm just running around the non-ordinary like a, kid with candy in their hands or something.
yeah,
Because it's
yeah,
exciting and it's
yeah,
interesting to me. I don't have to be perfect in that, any
totally.
space, but
Yeah.
especially there.
And then like what we don't realize and what our humanity is like learning through all these spiritual like lessons, however they like show up, come through a channel or through a, all the expansion of more, um, is the more that we have those expectations, the more that we are boxing ourselves into the idea of perfection and this and that. You're missing so many other creations that's happening right around you. You're missing all the gifts and the glory and the magic that's around you because you're so laser focused on one aspect of creation,
Mhm.
not simply allowing the flow to magically maneuver you
Yes.
and to live a life of ease without having. Who wants Excel sheets? Who wants all these 5-year plans? So I'm also going into corporate America. I'm very called, because I sell real estate um, like for your audience. And here comes the stuttering. I use the word like a lot, and I use the word because it helps me kind of transition, like when I stutter. So
Mhm.
if you hear that, a lot, you may not notice it, but I know that I'm stuttering. So I sell real estate, and I do like a lot of corporate like events. And I witness in this corporate world everybody not being themselves. Of course, like there are some that aren't quite
Mm.
chill and cool, and they're super comfortable in their skin, but the majority of the population is not and
Mhm.
lives in a limited world with fear, with doubt, with worry, with not empowerment of self. And that whole paradigm um, activates and supports the disempowerment without realizing they are being like disempowered. So I'm super, super called to go into the corporate world and redefine and reshape and allow everybody's masks to fall and to
Mhm.
simply be and to celebrate each other. There is no competition.
Mhm.
Celebrate.
Celebration is so important. Our world, if we're missing anything, it's integrating and celebrating.
Totally. Be happy for the next person because when the next person like rises, because you're tethered to
Yes.
them and you're connected to their infinite energy, you're
Yeah.
gonna rise too.
Yes.
And the idea, so the whole like corporate thing that came to my mind is when you said like I don't know, if like you said a 5-year plan, but within the corporate world, where do you see yourself in like 5 years? Or
Mhm.
who knows? I may not be alive tomorrow. Like
Mhm.
I want to live in the moment. Where do I see myself the next now moment of creation? Allow spirit to guide you. Allow the flow to guide you. That is
Mhm.
unrestricted, with ease, without
Mhm.
having to have the pressure that I said I'm going to be here in 5 years and I'm working that thing, and you're missing every other gift that's around you, and
You're
magic,
and you're
and
not
all the
leaving room
other.
for miracles either, right? Like that
Totally.
there's these things that happen that are very unexpected. So even if you're a pretty good guesser and you're pretty good at even intuition, right? So even spiritual folk who are not bogged down by all the conditioning, but are
Yeah.
bogged down by still some of it here,
Yeah.
right? Is that we can feel really like tied down to, well, I really want to do a spiritual service in the world, but I don't really know what it has to look like, and now I have to go do these certifications, and also I don't really trust myself to do that until I have this amount in the, but then you don't leave room for this miraculous handing over of opportunity that the
Yeah.
universe was having ready, because you're saying, well, I'll just wait until this and this and this and this and this happen. And once my, construct of 5 things on this checklist that is so arbitrary happen, then I will give myself permission to relax a little bit more. And then, oh, we relax and then more happens. And so we prove to ourselves, oh, well, those conditions helped me relax. Well,
Yeah.
no, you put in the condition that you were going to relax once those things happened, right? So what if you did that one first? And how would that go, right? Like if you flip
Totally.
the order.
Totally.
And I think, even going back to that idea of when we were talking about the pandemic
Yeah.
timing, and that was like a strange catapult for many people, I think, because of that isolation, because you are actually relaxed in a certain way,
Yeah.
in that all the confines were shifting. So you
Yes.
thought, oh, well, maybe something's changing. Well, if something's
Yes.
changing, what else could change? And then
Yes.
that opens up a whole, can of worms.
Totally. And then COVID was the most beautiful gift humanity could
Hmm.
have ever given to each other, because literally because of the idea, and this is how the illusion of the fear of death, of put masks on or whatever, or stand like 6 feet away. It's an illusion of, right? Because
Hmm.
if we're infinite and like there's no death, you never die to begin with. So what
Hmm.
are we killing, or what are we dying from? We're not. We're just changing costumes to be the next version of who we are, to know that we are more than just the physical body, and we are the infinite. But
Hmm.
it allowed this the and the whole world, like if you the whole Mother Earth stopped. And everything, and yes, you came home, a reflection that your home was the space where all exists, and the noise stopped. There's no more traffic, there's no more in a sense meetings or whatever it is, and you were able to hear your thoughts that were always there. You were able to hear the guidance, you were able to hear your higher self and the many beings,
Hmm.
because we were forced to come to a space where we can hear. And once you begin to recognize, wow, a lot of people changed their course of life
Hmm.
completely during COVID.
Hmm.
And some decided to leave this physicality and become energy,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Although some see it, oh, as like people died. Nobody died.
Hmm.
There's no death. We're
Hmm.
always energies. We're always living, but we
Hmm.
expand through like those experiences. So what a beautiful gift to allow us to hear our heart in us,
Hmm.
and that helps shift humanity, because now more of us
Hmm.
are like living with the less restriction and the noise, and following the voice that's always been within us, but we just never trusted or couldn't hear, or did hear and ignored, or didn't, or like weren't courageous enough to step into our own voice, whatever like the things are. So yeah.
I love that. And I'm curious,
Yeah.
for you in that time,
Yeah.
before you were public about it, can you tell me a bit about the process of the experience? Some parts of me sometimes think, say, for example, with my music, I love music. I've been told, I've been told this, you're going to laugh at this one, because
Okay.
I was told, like a year and a half, maybe close to 2 years ago, somewhere in the last 2 years, I saw it like a neon sign in a journey. It said shamanic artist. And I went, I don't think that's a thing. And then I became, oh no, that's my thing. And so I go by shamanic oracle, but shamanic artist is the like growth into, and both will be true, of course.
Yeah.
It's all true. We're everything, but there are these sort of like stronger pulses. That's a strong pulse. Boom, boom, boom. You got to follow this
Yeah.
shamanic artist, shamanic artist. And so now I keep seeking out these different art experiences, and it happens to be very easeful, that path, when I walk it. But for years, my music has been my thing, that is like my little diary that I just do like my own songs with. And so opening up into the immense ways that I'm being called to serve creatively is intimidating. And there was like a sacredness to how I had this little container before. And now it's an exposure of my soul that you have to kind of like, there's a ramp up to that, right? Now I'm quite excited by it. But when it first came in, there's a reason that was like over a year and a bit ago, at least, because it felt like, oof, oh, really? My name and lights, the marquee, the neon sign of this is your mission, or at least
Yes.
part of it.
Yes.
So can you tell me a bit about what that space was like for you before becoming public?
Yes. So I had no interest in being public. I mean, of course, in like the back of your mind, oh, you want to be like Bashar, you want to be like these big boys and girls that have been doing it for years, by the
Mhm.
way. Was no, I'm like, I just woke up a year and a half ago. I just began channeling. Like, and my limited mind did not equate my experience with the rest of the with like the rest of the people that
Mhm.
have been on the path. But I feel because I stepped in it really with no I mean, of course you have hopes and desires and your mind comes in, the ego like comes in like, yeah, I'm gonna be on stage and yeah, I'm gonna do this, but yes, I'm gonna drive across like the US and the world or whatever in a van or it just, you have these human like fantasies
Mhm.
that yes, you want them to happen and be real, but at the same time, it's not gonna happen and be real because I just woke up a year and a half ago. But
Mhm.
these are limitations so
Mhm. Mhm.
I just jumped in really, but with me, I feel what people like feel like with me and a lot of other people is the authenticity of where I am. Like I truly beyond believe know that I am a version of the infinite. And just the praying like the fact like that I'm called I channel like the praying mantis beings. That's just one version of the many versions. And I keep telling people, I don't know how long I'll be like channeling them. I know they'll always be part of me,
Mhm.
but they may not have the main seat all the time.
Right.
And that in itself allows the openness of what is more for me to be. But it's the simple being of who I am and emanating it and knowing and like really like not prophesizing it, but like talking about. So like I talk, okay, let me show you one picture like for your audience. And like
Yes.
this will bring it all together. So,
Great.
so like throughout my awakening, again, like the whole massive download happened when COVID came. But like when you first like awake, you see one documentary, you're excited about the more, you go back to sleep, you're back to your job.
Mhm.
3 months later, like you watch something else. So the first year and a half was all these little trickles of massive like awakenings.
Got
Not
you. So it was sort of this, yeah, like
exactly.
unfolding back and forth sort of process. And the like, oh, can I really say this? Can I really do this? Is this a commitment? There is this, you walk, there is a commitment at some point. There's a point of no return where you go, well, that's me now.
And this is what I'm going to show you is that.
Great.
And it's
Okay,
funny that you
that's
say
that
that. That's
moment.
literally,
Okay.
and you'll see,
Amazing.
you cannot commit. And once your audience hears this, they're going to fall off the chairs. Like you cannot commit. You're either insane and you belong in a mental hospital or whatever happened to you is real. Like I'm
Right.
serious.
Right.
But like throughout the journey, you're so disempowered, right? Like when you watch other channelers, you think they have to have a gift. They must be special. They must have trained for years. They must
Mhm.
have like, they must have lived in the mountain in like solitude for 20, like the crazy extremes. Like they had to have the best karma ever. They must have lived all these past lives of glorious, I don't know, saints to
Right.
so much disempowerment when it's in all of us really, and we all channel. So
Right.
when I awoke and on and through that year and a half where I would like tidbit like awake, I'm a good sleeper. I sleep, I can wake up and use the restroom 20 times, go back to sleep. I can catnap
Mhm.
during the day, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
There are moments where I wake up at 111, 333, at like 555, and like oftentimes whatever at 3:25 p.m. a.m. where I can't sleep for 2 or 3 hours. Like no, like I can. My body's exhausted. My mind's like, oh, I just want to sleep. I have to work tomorrow. I'm on my phone. I try to watch Gaia sometimes. Something and exhausted, not wanting to watch, but trying to pass the time.
Mhm.
And then I realized later I was getting downloads that
Mhm.
I was getting like seeds of information into my field that will unlock on my journey.
Mhm.
One of those, when I couldn't sleep for 2 or 3 hours, I literally had a calling. It was clear as day. You need to make a decal. I'm like, I don't know how to make a decal. I thought you had to be like Nissan or BMW or these car dealerships to create like who
Right.
who makes decals and where do you go to make decals? Like what the hell? Anyhow, you need to make a decal and put on the back of your car that you talk to aliens. You need to create a website. Doesn't need to be like perfect. Say that you are the praying mantis channel. You are the praying man. You channel like the praying mantis and put all kinds of like aliens and like bugs on your to support that. Listen, I'm a realtor and I've never in my life put on my car that I sell real estate ever. And I'm
Right.
not called. Is my car
Yep.
is just a car and I'm driving.
Yep.
So I wake up and I Google, and of course that's what like synchronicity comes. The first search I do, I find somebody who makes decals, and I'm like, and like now I'm like freaking out. What's the size of the decal? How big like the little like
We
minutia
need
of
more
the thing.
information. Tell us the dimensions.
Totally, like I don't know, like and like I don't want to look stupid with this crazy decal. Driving around Washington D.C. with clients
Yes.
in my car, showing them houses, all denominations, all like financial backgrounds, international people from all over the world. That says
Mhm.
this. Sorry.
Amazing. And you weren't shy about it.
Oh
That's no
no.
tiny decal. Oh, we got the Sasquatch, we got mantis beings, we got aliens.
Aliens and
Yep.
they're blinged out. So,
Love it.
and like one of them like reflects at at like night, the alien like this. So as you're driving at night, it reflects back to you, going
That's
like,
awesome.
I'm friendly.
That's awesome.
And you're absolutely right. I thought that's how decals are made. My friends were like, honey, this is not a decal, that's an advertisement. Which now I see it, but then I didn't. I'm like, a decal needs to be clear. You can't just put one, like, one alien head, and people can't decipher. You need to
Yeah,
give more
give
context.
them information. Yeah, exactly.
This on July um, 3rd of 2023 was literally my declaration I felt to the universe that wherever this is going, I'm gonna own it fully. As
Hmm.
I'm selling real estate with like brand new clients, like if I cared about being judged by a brand new person, I'm trying to, like do my job and help them sell a home or buy a home. You would not do this. You would not
Hmm.
advertise to say I talk and insect. So, but this is the knowingness I had. There was nothing that could veer me away from putting that sign on my car.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that changed everything. That literally I feel was my, like whatever that you described earlier, that just shifted the frequency and
Yeah.
vibration of my beingness. And the beautiful thing is I would be driving, and I forget at times that I have the decal because it's my car and I'm driving. I'm thinking a million other things. I'm working, I'm on calls, I'm doing text sometimes illegally while driving, whatever. You're not thinking you have a decal in your car, but people honk and they're like, yes.
Right.
But the most beautiful
Why is
thing
everyone honking at me?
I know. I'm like, what's going on, dude? I'm like driving very safely, but I forget.
Yeah.
Oh, they're honking or like they pull up, and say, "That's a cool sign, man. We believe."
Yeah.
But the most beautiful thing are young girls or boys, kids. I was at a red light, and I was like the first car, and like there was a lane next to me, and this big suburban um, like pulls up with their windows down because I could hear the music, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like these are kids because I live right next to American University. There's like a lot of college kids. And I'm thinking, oh, like they're having a good time, and and they're blessed in the music. And I like normally like, don't look at people to see because you make eye contact, and it's like,
Oh, the amount
do
of
they,
awkward. Yeah.
I know, do they think they're
I
judging
don't,
you, or are you
I stare
saying?
straight ahead too, and rear view and don't.
I know, but oftentimes I give them like I smile like good job, like so
Yeah,
they
of
know I'm supporting them and I'm not like judging them in my mind.
course.
But I feel called to look, and what I see are these two young girls, like with redhead pigtails and all freckles, identical twins, looking at me. I have chills all over my arms and I'm reliving it. They say, "We believe, we." I don't know what they said. We believe, we believe, we believe.
That's so,
Like I have chills. Like look at my head.
I love
I
it.
knew immediately that this sign was to activate people. And whether I get a
Hmm.
confirmation by them honking or saying we believe, people are witnessing this and it's making their mind think more. To the point,
Absolutely.
the mom like drove in front of me and I was like behind them for about 5 minutes. The whole time they're saying we like it was the most beautiful experience I've had. And when I'm showing people homes in my car, we begin talk because the first thing they see is that like Tony, what is that? I'm like, okay, are you ready? They're like, okay, because I'm very cool like with people,
Hmm.
and like they open up to me, and we began talking about religion and
Hmm.
spirituality, not from a space of I try to change them or they change me, but just purely dialoguing on what my story is, what your story is, what my lens is, what your lens
Yeah.
is, and we merge together with like so many things. And like oftentimes they say, look, Tony, I love what you believe in. I don't understand it totally, but I get you and it's cool. They allow you to be you, and it's just the most magical thing that's ever happened. Um, Before this decal, I knew nothing. I've been traveling every month since last November 2023, or I think September. And I'm traveling every month till next August. I don't know how many events those are, 20, 25, or 30 events. Had no clue existed. No, it's not. It wasn't part of my
Yeah.
vibration. I
Yeah.
didn't see myself. I even didn't believe, even if I call an event maker or an event producer and say, hey, I channel menses, like people ask how many followings you have. They want to know, there's all the business aspect of
Hmm.
how can I benefit from you. Every conversation I had with these people within 3 minutes, they haven't even seen my website. They haven't even, all they heard is I channel like the praying mantis. They felt my energy. They said, we would like you to like, I
Energy
mean,
prevails time and
totally.
time again. And it's because it's what it all is.
Yeah.
We can't deviate, so you might as well work with it. It is
Totally.
what it is, so you might as well accept it.
Totally. But
Of
part of that, I reach out. I am very proactive and I'm not
course.
afraid for somebody to say no. I've had one event maker that I didn't feel good about, and I asked them because I was in my 3D mind. I'm on a row. I'm asking all these event makers. They're all saying yes, but my intuition said no, and they said no to me. I'm like, okay. And I wasn't hurt. I'm like, okay, Tony, you should listen to yourself in the beginning. You weren't sure about it anyways. Like,
Mhm.
trust your intuition.
Yeah.
Um,
Just because it sounds good doesn't mean it's vibrationally matching you. And
totally.
there could be like five events and you're meant to be at three of them. But if you think I've got to be at all five, you could end up exhausted because you've dragged yourself slower down the road by doing more, which doesn't make a lot of sense to a business mind, because a business mind will say, well, you were in front of that many more hundreds or thousands of people. So that has to be a better business decision. Well, it's actually not. And because you're going into the corporate space, I feel that a lot as well, because with the shamanic work as well, there's a lot of pieces that if they were incorporated into someone's ability to journey, they might have a sense of the vision rather than a particular metric, and then they can queue up to the sense of it actually much stronger than the metric, because the metric might change because the world's
Yeah.
always changing, right? So it's like some of these softer qualities actually work better, and it keeps people more relaxed. I think a lot of the time people are stressed out at work, no matter the scale of work that you're doing. It's because of like your perception of safety or connection, or one of these more base level sort of panics that might
Yeah.
come up.
Yeah.
We intellectualize it and think it's way
Totally.
more interesting and way more complex. But in reality, we're like, oh no, I might not have work if I don't do this thing. And if I don't have work, then I don't have a home. And that is where it comes from. So, how fascinating that you also do real estate and you have this connection to home. And we were
Yes.
chatting about you're traveling a lot. So, you understand travel and you understand my nomadic kind of ways,
Yes.
because it is this way of being in flow. And my family, we always moved when I was younger, and I used to think, oh, my mom's just restless because she always wants to be in a new house. But I get it now. In reality, she was like graduating. There was like a growth that she did. There was a change and a visual something that she had shifted, that was for that chapter, and then we move on. And a lot of the folks staying in one zone are not exposing themselves to the amount that could resonate with them stronger, right? Like, imagine your whole life you didn't realize you actually love to cook because you never had enough time to, you didn't have someone show you. Then you go to France and you suddenly become a chef because you're inspired by, all the butter.
And the bread and the cheese and the
Yeah, I
chocolate
know. Until I want to go to France right now, I guess
and
is
the
where my head's
wine.
at. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally.
But
No,
you're putting yourself out there because
mm,
you're going to then resonate with what's
yeah,
coming through much stronger.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
you're holed up, it's hard to do.
yeah. And then when you just vibrate on like the being, when you allow the being to be,
Mhm.
right? Then the being will reveal to you the magic that's like within it. But if you're restricting the being that's within you or the version of you that wants to emerge,
Mhm.
um, you're not allowing it to show you the magic that you can't see because the
Mhm.
idea of it, we're expanding. Allow the flow to allow that expansion. How are you going to expand to this level when you don't know what exists there? Allow the energy that
Right.
already know what's there to take you there. And part of my new thing, um, yes, I'm gay, but I was never like called to wear a dress or put like eyeliner on. I was oh, by the way, I'm like very called to put the infinity sign
Mhm.
and then all these little dots that I do. And like the Antares symbol, like which is the other symbol that I have. And I'm like, I have to put some Botox so this thing is like that all the time. I'm kidding.
No, it's ever expanding. It's flexible.
Oh, it's like so, I love it. Um, uh, but I was called because, like, as I channel, and I receive my messages, by the way, like through the channel sessions.
Mhm.
So, like, when I channel for people, or on like stage, like this is how I learn within my consciousness based on the question that people ask. I'm not called, like, I'm not one of those channels that like sits here and just like talks about what the beings want to talk about just in front of the camera. I'm not called to do that yet. I may do it in the future. So all the information I received and the consciousness and the expansion, like from the mantises, are all from like the whole dialogue I have like with clients under the state, and of course you don't remember like what you channeled because I'm a trance channeler, but there is a knowingness of what was said without remembering how it was said. It's hard to describe. It's within
Mhm.
your field.
Mhm. Nope, I get that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like the idea I'm a creation and I'm a creator, infinite, like they always talk about that. And I'm like, wait, if I'm the infinite, And I'm a creator, then I get to create like whatever version I want. So I'm gay. I was never felt called to put makeup or wear a dress. But on the big stage that I most recently watched, which is like the biggest the biggest stage at the channel panel in like Sedona, there was like I think 800 people. The whole thing fits, but I think there was like 600 or like maybe 500 people. I was on this big stage, and people expected me like to look in my white garb or the black garb, which is I'll show you a quick picture like for your clients. I would normally look like this. This is how like how most people kind of like resonate with me.
Mhm.
I was called 3 days before not to do that. And I knew that my role on this life is to disrupt the paradigm, to push you beyond your limits. Whether you want to be pushed there or not, that's your choice. But for me to live my life from a very expanded way. So I decided to wear a dress and put on, I don't know if I showed you this when we talked first, and like put on um,
Is it the gold?
these,
I have this image
these,
in my.
yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like it's amazing. Like, and this is a huge stage.
It's so amazing.
Amazing. So
Love it.
I stepped out on that stage, and I've never been on like this big stage. I've been in like many conferences with like 20, 30, maybe 100 people, like big rooms, but not massive like auditorium type stage. And of course, as a person, and here comes the stuttering, as a person who stutters, the last thing you want to do is speak in public, let alone on a freaking stage. Last thing.
Mhm.
Because that's just like, even if you don't stutter and you're on stage, you have like stage fright and all that thing. So, I mean, there's that element. And then you add the fact I can even barely speak, forget about it. I walked on that stage and I was not nervous. And I like started a bit and I gave my whole story. And my sound and vibration within the microphone felt so familiar. I knew I've done this eons and I knew I've spoken on stage so many times ago, which was so weird because the last thing I want to be is on stage. The
Mhm.
last thing I want to do is speak with a massive people like looking at you, right? Because eye
Mhm.
contact to me really like disturbs my stuttering. It
Mhm.
just for some reason, like when I look at somebody's eye and I'm speaking, I stutter a lot more. It's crazy, and I've been trying to figure out why the eye contact, maybe the judgment
Mhm.
aspect. I don't know. So,
Mhm.
but so like I like was on stage and as I'm speaking to people, and I wanted to make eye contact because I wanted to make people feel I'm speaking to you, and I really like relate that way. When I tell you, I saw sparkles in like people's eyes. I can't describe it. Whether it's energetical sparkles, real sparkles, I don't know what I experienced. And literally a wall like fall down from each person,
Mhm.
almost like I have chills all over my body. A mask just fall off that this being, meaning me, is on there, is like wearing a dress and he doesn't care and he's just talking like, and I don't care as an observer if he's wearing, like, I felt the energy of allowance for you to be anything you desire. Not that you have to be a dress, but if you want to be a singer, if you don't want to do this job anymore, if you want to speak your truth to your husband or to your wife, or if you've always meant to say something, like the restriction, the suppression, the disempowerment, it was the most magical thing ever. I knew that I'm meant to be that. And this falls into the thing that I've been speaking. I didn't know it will evolve like this way, that I'm the creator. I don't know like where I'm going to be tomorrow. I don't know whom I'm going to channel tomorrow. I don't know like I'm going to live in the unknown and allow the unknown to guide me, not knowing that it will like in a sense manifest like this. And I want to show you like one other beautiful like silk dress that I wore. Um, this woman is a podcast from
Mm.
Estonia. So, and like with the bling bling on my
I love
head.
those colors. It's beautiful.
And I want to tell you, I felt more masculine than ever
Yep.
being in me. And beyond that, I felt a being and a creator.
Mhm.
Not that I'm wearing jewelry. Who said jewelry is like feminine and masculine? And who said like this color pink? It's all creation. It's
Mhm.
all part of the infinite. It's all intelligence. It's all frequency. It's all vibration. It's all consciousness. We as a humanity created all these categories and like and subcategories of judgment to create the separation. But it was the most magical thing. And after that, I swear to you, when I say, look, I am kind of popular, like when I go like to these events, but not really popular because I'm new. Look, you don't know that there's Praying Mantis channel unless you meet them and you're like, oh, there's one, and now you know there's one.
Hmm.
Um, all these events I've done, I'm new. This event took it to the next level. I had 200 people like waiting in line to have readings. Never had that before. 6 sign-up sheets back and front, like insane. But the feedback that I received afterwards, like saying, we loved your channeling, but above all, we loved how you stood as a human up there, explaining to us your story and being the creator that you are. You are giving me the and people were crying, giving me the permission to be. And I have chills. It was the most magical, liberating, freeing feeling. And I literally had, I mean, like my head is totally chilled out. You see the little bumps? Believe me, there's bumps everywhere, or goosebumps. It was and it just propelled me to now I know why I was saying before I want to do like corporate events, not knowing how it's going to happen, not knowing if it's really, not knowing if I'm capable of doing it. I guess because I'm like, again, because of my stuttering, not knowing if I can hold myself on stage in a powerful way, in complete confidence, but the not knowing. Yet I knew it will happen, not knowing how it will happen, it will unfold, whether it's going to become real or not.
Hmm.
It did happen. It was the most exhilarating thing ever to see people being free of
Hmm.
all the limitations, societal, whether like cultures, whether it's the stories you created like within your mind, school, social media, your parents, traumas, go on the list. That I know my life on earth is to disrupt the paradigm in a friendly and unconditional, like loving way, and to simply be me. That I'm not trying to change you, and it doesn't matter. You are a divine being, and I see everyone as all divine ascended masters choosing to live their life and learning like through their life. But me on this earth, I'm gonna be me in all the versions that I am, and who knows what I'm gonna be tomorrow, how I'm gonna look, how I'm gonna speak, who I'm gonna channel, etc., etc. And that allows the flow, right? And I go back to the way that I lived. It was a very stark like contrast, like lived in limitation, like lived in poverty. Like my father did not have the ability like to save money, and we didn't have nice things, and there's always that not enough, not enough, not enough, not enough. And he was a hard worker and a great man and like super loving, and still with all these aspects he doesn't have what he wants. Like how can
Hmm.
that happen? Like how can you be a super loving man, super generous man, but yet live in if no flow is. And now I'm realizing, because we're creating that within us, but because we weren't taught that we're empowered to manifest. And the irony is, we manifested through our power, the poverty, through our like definition system, but we weren't aware of it. But when you begin to awaken to the powerful message that you are the creator, that if you can if you can manifest a whole life of poverty or things you don't prefer, listen, I manifested as a creator a life of that I don't prefer. You sure as hell can manifest a life you want to prefer. But when that realization comes, like your whole world like shadows, like completely like I'm like disintegrates, because in that moment you're like, who am I all these years? Like, how could I not have seen that message? And you will have an identity crisis for a bit, because now you're shedding all the layers and all the little masks you thought were you, and now you're meeting yourself, not knowing who you are. And that's when you begin a beautiful, intimate relationship with self and with inner self and with the power. And that's when magic begins happening. I mean,
And
magic is happening all the time, but really, when you go within and shed and take off layer after layer, costume after costume, pain, trauma, this, that, then you face yourself literally not knowing who you are. You have an identity crisis. Who am I? Who's this being? Where have you been? How can I not know myself? Like, how can Tony not freaking know Tony?
hmm.
You know? And from that space, your whole world becomes different. You realize that you always have been the creator. And when you feel that beautiful, like, freedom of being the creator, naturally, from an unconditional, like, loving space, you wish it onto the rest. So I feel like my mission here is to spread the word. I don't want anyone to feel disempowered. No one should feel disempowered. Although, as I say that, the masters are saying, remember, Tony, you're an infinite being. And as an infinite being, you got to honor people's journeys. You may wish the desire on them to not be disempowered, but if the idea of for them, by their free will choice, to be disempowered is part of their ascension, allow them to be. Just witness them with humbleness, knowing that they are powerful enough. but go do what you need to do. And whoever vibrates on that frequency and chooses to kind of adopt these new ways of thinking, then you also witness them like doing that. So there's all these complexities within like what I say that I know that we could go quite deep into, and I kind of semi-consciously like channeled because I felt the energy and like you may have like felt it too. But it's beautiful to witness people free, free to be. Because the most prison, the most intense prisoner, the most traumatic and strongest prison, if that makes sense in English, that we could place on ourselves is not feeling free within our being. You could be imprisoned in a prison, and that's one form of not feeling free. But your own freedom within you that you place on you, that's the most powerful one that makes you feel so disempowered. When you work with that and free yourself within, it doesn't matter even if you are in a physical like physical prison, you're free within. It doesn't matter because the world that you're living in is much grander and beyond the physical prison that you're in, if that makes sense. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to witness you being also. That is such a gift for all of us, and I'm sure for yourself as well, because we have these moments where we sort of get outside of ourselves, look back in, and go, "Whoa, you've changed."
totally.
Yeah, and I like too that you also say, I think it's important for all of us just walking this path to not also attach to this is how it's always going to look, right? So we could see you some years in the future and there could be a whole new collective of beings that is with you and you could also be in a bank. And if that is the purest expression for you, then it would be obvious because we would feel it and that energy always prevails through that. So I
Exactly.
love what you talk about freeing, just completely allowing ourselves to be. I often call it stepping out of the way of what is trying to come through and what is, because
Yes.
I just find myself darting from side to
Yes.
side, saying,
Yes.
okay, how can I get out of this way? Oh, wait, did I put that there? Let me remove this extra weighted blanket. Let me remove this other, pylons and cones and all these other things we've put
Yeah.
in that, in front of that pathway of just simply being. And every day, this is something I've noticed with all the OracleFest speakers. There's these moments that
Yeah.
threads that tie our message all together. And David Bouchard, he's this beautiful Indigenous rights activist over in BC on Turtle Island in Canada. He's written many books about sacred teachings and ancient sacred teachings and wisdom of the land, of course. And his understanding is that every day he shows up and he speaks to his great grandmother and says, okay, what would you have me do today? What's next? Right.
Yeah.
And it's this same energy to which you approach things, which is, okay, well, what's now, right? And the mantis beings will tell you, hey, get that decal, right? Hey, they'll say, hey, this is next. And so wherever the voices are coming from, however it's felt, it's sensed from our bodies and from uh our own being in
Yes.
the here and now for as
Yes.
long as we are here and now.
Yes. Totally. Totally. And I feel the need to tell like the audience or whoever ends up hearing this recording is even though you may hear me like say what I say and like some of the things are new and in your mind like wow, I know I haven't reached a level. There is no level for me to reach. I know that I'm always expanding. I know I'm always learning. I know that because I'm an infinite being, there's no destination ever.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I don't see myself as I have reached this level. I'm just creating more of who I am.
Yes.
And I know that creation continues. And please, please, please don't put anyone else on a pedestal
Mm-hmm.
and me. None of us.
Mm-hmm.
No one is more gifted than you.
Yeah.
No one has more gifts than we all came into this life. We're all creators. We all have the same gift, the same exact tools. Period.
Mm-hmm.
There is no gift that you need or you're extra special than the next. No. It's all a matter of focus and like theme of exploration and how truly much you push yourself beyond the fear, because it's a fear aspect which has its own ascended mastery and its creation by itself. And there's no, and we I think I also feel like we need to talk about judgment
Yeah.
after this, because
Agreed.
that's a
Yeah.
main, that's a massive
Criticism,
key. It's like
fear.
a big
Yeah.
key in the door.
Shame probably led to that criticism. So we're putting guilt and shame down there too. Yeah.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
There's a whole bag
Yeah.
of that. We need
A
to like,
bag of tricks.
the cat came out of the bag. Well, a lot
Yeah.
of cats are coming out of this bag. And so there is no like pedestal to place anyone on. If you're
Yes.
going to put anyone on a pedestal, put yourself on the only pedestal of creation. Any person you want to disappoint, I heard this on TikTok or I don't know, like Instagram. And although I'm not on like social media a lot because I'm busy, but I have a social media team that does their thing, which is nice, thank God. But I saw this one post where it says, the only person you should disappoint are the rest of creation in the world. The only person you shouldn't disappoint is yourself. I
Hmm.
love it.
Hmm.
Love it, love it, love it. The only, doesn't matter. Your job on earth, in a sense, creation, is to get to know more about who you are. That's the
Hmm.
only focus you should have. And if you want to put things on pedestals, put you only. Because you are the creator to begin with, creating everyone else, right? So all of us have the same gifts. All of us are channels. All of us are writers. All of us are dancers. All of us are singers. All of us are all these beings. All of us are the rocks. And I can go into crazy stuff. We're the wind. We're the galaxies. We're all of it, right? But through our definition system, through our story, through our theme of exploration as a grander soul that we chose to experience to allow us to expand, through the act of limitation, through the act of separation, we experience those things to allow us to expand,
Hmm.
which gets us to judgment. Judgment is the key, the only key in a sense, which judgment has all the little cousins. Judgment has a big family tree of shame and disappointment and embarrassment. I don't know what else, and blah blah blah, all the same thing. A massive Christmas tree of like all happy together in one bag. That is what keeps you separate from you.
Hmm.
So as you ascend, and when we say ascend, you're not going to a higher level from like higher and lower. As you expand and begin to realize, wow, I'm more than I thought that I am, you begin to realize that judgment is the expression of creation, because judgment is so speaking of levels, when you become very awakened, you realize the act of judgment itself, although we're saying it from kind of like a negative term, it separates you. Judgment itself, it's its own creator and its creation. So within that aspect, you're not even judging it, but you're realizing that through the act of judgment within here, it separates us from more of who we are. And that's where you kind of have a life review and continue to have a life review, ongoing life review of yourself. When did I judge myself and others? Because every time you judge yourself, you literally took a little square of you and thrown it into the ether.
Hmm.
Judge, 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 judge. So now what I seem a whole being with eyes and everything, I have holes all over my body. Literal holes. So you have to go back to those pieces that you judged
Hmm.
and see them as creation and as a tool to allow you to expand, but see the version of you that you fully judged and as a creation, and begin to, in a sense, view it from an unconditionally like loving space, that judgment, that facet of me that I didn't accept or wanted to see or deny or shunned, has a place as part of creation, and it's valid. And what it wants to do is wants to see you. It wants to be seen by you as part of you, because it is. When you do that from an unconditioned loving space, you literally bring that piece that you shunned back into the hole that was here. The more you do that, then you're reconstructing, and I have chills all over my body. You're reconstructing the beautiful image to see yourself as a whole being, WHOLE. Then you do that for others. Every experience you judge, every human you judge, every blah, blah, blah you judge, all of that, bringing those pieces back to you to allow yourself to begin to see yourself more than a human. Now I'm becoming conscious or whatever. Um, that's a message that came through, like one channel message, like for a client, where in the state, I was literally in this beyond words, I was in the consciousness of literally living what judgment is, how it separates us, and how the act of loving it and seeing it, and it keeps evolving, right? Because I had like one image, one experience of it. It was the most beautiful image that they shown me that I cannot get out of my head. And when you begin seeing your life from that perspective and acting and behaving and challenging yourself to act with unconditional love, literally, you begin to know yourself again, to see
Hmm.
how vast you are. And love is the last thing that I would like to talk about for now, but we talk about a million other things. I
Yes.
just feel like I want to talk. Humanity loves conditionally, period. I don't care if you've uttered, I love you unconditionally a billion times, you still love conditionally. Now, there are some humans across the globe that vibrate on the unconditional love aspect of things, but the majority of the humans still conditioning love. We're so conditioned because unconditional love, unconditional, no conditions means you love everything, everyone, every experience, including a war, including Hitler, including serial killers, including perpetrators, including rapists, all the bad ones. And I know that triggers a lot of people, but the mantises are not here. They told me clearly, we are not here to use old paradigms and old tools to help you expand. We're going to bring new vibration and frequency of expansion to push you beyond your comfort zone to begin to realize and understand the more, right? Those aspects that our society have judged as bad, yes, as an experience, it may be viewed as bad on the polarity of things, good or bad. But as an experience itself, it is creation. As an experience itself, it allows the perpetrator to expand and know more about itself as a being. It allows the victim to expand, to know itself more about its being. It allows the observers, us, that are observing a war or an act of rape or an act of killing or whatever, the tough things that we cannot realize, allows us the opportunity to expand by witnessing and having compassion and expanding our hearts, literally stretching what love is. Love is unbounded, is infinite. If you ever experience the idea of being in love with anything, in love with a human, in love with self, hopefully, in love with a book, in love with a song, in love in a moment, that is a little tiny scratch of what the unconditional love is. But those experiences allow your heart to open further. So when you begin vibrating from that perspective, where even though I'm going to challenge and I may not comprehend intellectually how I'm going to love the idea of war. And unconditional loving, it doesn't mean you condone the act of that, right? It doesn't. It's just viewing that experience from a very different lens, from a lens of unconditionality of love, and being able to really, when you do that, your whole life changes. But also because we're infinite and we don't die, listen to this, the Mantis said clearly, you guys understand things very intellectually, very well, through the act of limitation, but you don't understand what you're saying. Period. You just don't. When you say, I'm an infinite being, if you believe you're an infinite being and there is no death, if people are killing each other and there's no death, what's really happening? There is no death. You're never dying. You're just changing forms.
Right. It doesn't have that emotional charge the same way that we would if we have this attachment to what we view our
Totally.
dust to dust life would be.
Totally. So I struggled this past year because the Mantis through and look through the channel messages for clients. It is all private, for one person. So I get the honor to kind of hear their private things or whatever. But then they bring up these big concepts. So I don't share them often with public, and I haven't. I was afraid with my 3D mind to share the act that it say, oh, you need to unconditional love Hitler and serial killers and rapists and all the other awful things, atrocities that happen. I suppressed myself not to speak that truth, although I knew it and I saw it clearly how the mantises and consciousness see it. But on stage, I spoke about some of those things. So that was part of me expanding into my truth and fully stepping into that, not being afraid if I get shunned by this whole thing. And nobody shunned. Everybody understood it probably the way that they were meant to understand it. But it was a very clear message for me to step into my truth and deliver the message exactly how it was meant to come, regardless of what consequences an illusion. And that's how you step fully into beyond the fear, because you realize beyond the fear is just simply an illusion, not allowing you to feel the freedom that we've always been seeking. And the freedom is really within, not from the others. Even if the whole crowd shunned me for speaking about Hitler and serial killer and the idea of unconditional loving it, if I am fully vibrating with my own unconditional love for my truth, where I know I'm supposed to be and say, it would not have mattered, because I'm already free within. Because my job is not to change you. My job is to speak the truth that's coming through me, wherever it's coming from. Mantis, God, I don't know. It could be all of them together, right? That's where the freedom lies. And when you begin to expand your mind and challenge on all these topics that have been so surprised, even the idea of sex, having sexual desires, I didn't talk about this yet, but let's talk about it now. I had a workshop before my stage, like to work with sound, and I was called to work with sound, not knowing how. But like the event makers wanted like a description, right, to put on the ad that, oh, Tony's having this workshop about sound, and I couldn't verbally like write down because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen in a moment. It depends on this, on who's there. All of our energies are going to create the creation. So I said some general like sense of sound. I just gave them a description of the workshop. They're like, we're going to work with sound and to hear your own truth or something like that, very general. Knowing when I get there, it may shift and change. We may not work with sound. Who knows? And that's part of my truth. So I stood there and we began the workshop. And like the night before, I had this calling. You need to work with sound and moan sexually with everyone. Moan, men and women. And there's some big burly man, they're straight and like beard, and that bro was moaning. But but everybody resisted. But the
Got
idea
big
was not.
lungs, you know?
Yeah, totally, exactly. But I mean, and look, this is from my lens and view that, a big like burly man would not be open to moaning in public. Like women may, but a lot of them, whatever. This is my own
Hmm.
own limitations in my mind. But I knew that needed to happen, and we spoke about it, and I kind of like worked them into it. It's not about the sexual aspect of moaning and going or whatever you do it. It's about hearing the voice of creation, that you are the voice of creation. And sex is suppressed within our community and religion because that's your sound and voice. Sex is energy. It's not from the like porn aspect of things that people have seen. And even that's part of creation. That's part of expansion too. You expand through that. But it's been so demonized and again so suppressed. You might as well talk about a serial killer when you talk about sex or this and that, or you know what I mean? So it's those topics that are so taboo. Well, they're taboo for a reason, guys.
Hmm.
The
There's a
reason
lot of
would
power
be
there.
yes,
Humans that are connected to their desires, right? It threatens the confines that be
yes,
because our desires are wildly expansive and they're expressive. We're gonna go where we're gonna dress how we please, right? And it's not buying into the way that.
totally.
Mhm.
But listen for a moment and hear yourself. Why are we being kept away from these taboo aspect of things? There's gold nuggets there. There's truth. There's wisdom. There's power that the government, society, whoever, don't want us to have access to. Everything is designed for suppression. Suppressing what? Your own power. So when you begin challenging and just questioning why, and beyond that, even within your own private state, begin exploring with those like ideas. Like you don't have to go out in public and say, "Hey guys, let's moan together." But I probably will and do because I'm crazy like that. You don't have to go out in public and like talk about serial killers, how like we can love them, or how we can see a different aspect of that, right? You don't have, but begin within yourself and challenge yourself. And I bet you, when you begin challenging yourself, you'll begin to find a new lens of seeing what was once tabooed as really there was nothing taboo about it. And what it is all you, all more of you, all the power that has been suppressed to keep you away from your power, and not to remember that you are the being that you are searching for this whole time in Mother Mary, in Jesus, in Buddha, in the idea of ascension, in Taoism, in meditation, in walking in nature. All these things are leading you somewhere to ascension. The ascension, guys, is happening within you and through you. But how can you ascend? How can you reveal to yourself that you are the infinite and more if you don't experience all? Part of it is moaning, part of it is burping, part of it is farting, part of it is all these things that have been, and I know like some of these concepts are pushing people's buttons, but it's okay because we all do it. And we all poop too, by the way. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we all do
Agreed.
these things and we all moan in our pride, but yet we can't talk about it. Like something is not right there. Like
Some of
something.
our most primal and our most innate qualities of being creators are the things that are being challenged. So if we could just like woof, open our eyes to that, even, I mean, look at our food. Our food fuels us, and look at how much it's changed and how disconnected we feel. And, people are crying once they realize what they're eating. They don't know, for so many years. And so that process of coming back to what's authentic for your
Yes.
being
Yes.
is the revolution and
Yes.
is the rebellion that our world
Yes.
is asking for, that you're asking for, if you want things to change.
And thank you for saying that, because just because I'm talking about sex and all these things and like serial killers, your way of enlightenment may not be this path of those. I'm just giving you examples. So as you said, Kate, what resonates with you as your truth that you're suppressing within you, work on those suppressions,
Mhm.
whatever that is, you know?
Yep.
Um, and I also want to say one thing that just left my mind, and it will come, and I'm going to surrender because it wasn't relevant, I guess. It will come if it's relevant.
My
Um,
mom used to say when we were younger, she used to say, "Oh, must have been a lie."
yeah,
I always
exactly.
think of that like, "Oh my gosh, I've been lying a
Yeah,
lot. I forget a lot of little things I was going to say."
totally, totally.
That's such a funny.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So like it's what I was going to say, and I need to like slow down a little bit because I'm speaking too fast. Is each and every one of you can feel and be beyond feel empowered. You have a choice to continue living your life however you choose to, and that is honored by creation. Know that. Creation will never judge you,
Mhm.
ever, for any of the choices. Even if you thought of killing somebody, or
Mhm.
even if you hated this person because he's Republican or Democrat, or he's black or he's Asian, I don't care. The whole judgment of things, racism, even that's another thing.
Mhm.
Another very, very, slavery, all of it. Even if you don't resonate with any of it, judgment, creation never judges you. Know that within yourself. It's all part of creation. But know that you can be free and you have the power within you to be free if you choose to. And it doesn't take a long time anymore to work through things. The menses
Mhm.
have been talking so much about the quantum field and
Mhm.
beyond the quantum that our humanity cannot even comprehend. I don't care what book you read. I really don't care. In a very loving way.
Yeah.
I don't care what you have in your mind. And I'm really being, I don't care what definition system you have in your mind. You can shift overnight. I'm telling you that right now.
Yep. Gotta leave room
Within
for
a split second.
miracles, right? We don't know how it's going to happen. It
Come
can
on.
happen at any time, completely, completely unbound to whatever you thought.
You can shift your life and feel empowered by tomorrow morning.
Yep.
And it starts with one little tiny example. And that little example will literally snowball into a massive ball of snow and an avalanche of blah, 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 however you can imagine that. Because a lot of the humans on our planet have been ascending, have been working on themselves. A lot of shamans, a lot of channelers, a lot of other humans that don't realize they are channels are doing it with the unknowingness that they are channeling. And a lot of other beings are assisting us. And why are they assisting us? Because our vibration, our frequency as a collective has been shifting, giving them, in a sense, signals that we're ready to learn more, to expand more, to see more. So why did the praying mantis all of a sudden come? There's no information about the praying mantis anywhere on the internet. Maybe a very 0.01%. You're not going to find a lot of information out there, and not too many people really like spoke about him, right? Because the vibration of the humanity hasn't ascended to a point, in a sense, where that resonance happened. They didn't receive the message that they can know more about it. And the reason I'm saying that is other beings are gonna come online we don't even know freaking exist. And
Mm.
names of those beings don't even freaking exist. So we're being supported by the many to push us into our oneness as a global, universal, multi-universal, galactic federation. You hear the words, whatever, this one little way of more, but of realizing that we are everything and everyone in all timelines. So you have a choice after this beautiful expression of creation made by Kate, because she's the creator of this. Um,
We're all the creators. It
yes, we are.
came
Thank
through.
you.
But I said
Thank
yes
you.
also. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, to live a life of your choice,
Yes.
knowing that it doesn't take forever to change it and to alter it. Anyhow,
I love that. I love all
thank you.
this.
Thank you. And me too. I mean, we could,
Hey, all
I
day.
always say I need to have a podcast because I could,
I know.
it's on my list. And so many people approach me, let's do a podcast together. And I'm like so busy. I'm like, okay, we'll have to figure out how to fit it in. But, um,
I
and
sit in
no,
the same category as you because I'm doing the
totally.
same thing here, going, I guess I am doing a podcast now, but I just thought I wanted to show everyone all the amazing OracleFest speakers. And then it's become well, this could basically be a podcast at this point. I'll
Totally.
formalize it later, maybe.
Totally, totally. And all of it is helping you get to where you need to get when you just, who knows? There may be a new idea bigger than a podcast that you'll do. I don't know. It may be a live podcasting. Who knows? Keep the,
Well, and this
you
is one
already,
of the funniest things is like, we can think we know because I'm full of ideas. And I mean, I come up with a new business idea every day. I promise you, there's a billion that I've thrown in the trash can, or I
yeah,
pass them to other beings, and I say, hey, maybe you do that one. And then I'll just keep, motoring. But actually, everything could look different my whole life.
yeah,
Tomorrow, right? And we don't know, so the best we can do is kind of it's funny when you said earlier
yeah.
this thing of you saw me kind of like as if in my non-ordinary, I like trip over myself and kind of stand back up, brush myself off, keep going.
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm
Right.
good. Am
And
I good
I love
leading?
this idea that in life, a lot of us, we take ourselves so seriously and we think we're doing so much, and we've got this identity that we just, kind of wrestle with. And a lot of the times I see people, no matter how we are in life, as like we're running full speed down a hill like a child. And like every now and then we kind of do a little tumble and then we catch ourselves and keep running, because we might feel like we're going at whatever kind of pace, but ultimately we're like pulled by some sort of force, and it's like that force downward running down a hill. And it's nicer to take that journey with joy and laughing as you trip and stumble and fall and roll back up and keep chasing, than
Yes,
to say I'm scared this whole way and then every bruise feels much worse, right? And so I like this. It's like how the
totally,
idea,
totally.
like me and like all the other like world politicians and also the children are like all running down, and like how
Yes,
might we all run
yes,
downhill doing
yes,
our best to keep our legs
totally.
under us.
Totally. And I want to talk about like two things as you're like speaking this
Sorry.
like no, that's okay, it's awesome. That's no, I mean this is how like we
This
dialogue.
is it. Yeah.
Uh so this is how it works, guys. In case you haven't spoken before, that's how humans talk.
Yeah.
Probably like the aliens are going like, what the hell? This is how they talk? Too much words and vibration. Just talk
Cyclical.
telepathically.
Yeah.
Totally. So I want to talk about the savior complex, that I'm
Yes.
Jesus and you're Jesus, and about self love in a sense, which we kind of tapped in like a little bit, that you're the only pedestal you should be on.
Mhm.
And fully, we've been taught that selfishness is not a good thing. Not that it's not good to help and support and assist others, yes. But imagine how that help and support and assist others, the vibration of that comes from when you unconditionally and self love you, because it's only you to begin with.
Yep.
And saving, being the same. I was Jesus for 44 years, let's put it that way. You might as well put me on a cross in my
Or you
face
thought
for
of
killing.
yourself as Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. My husband always makes fun of me. He's like, you say stuff, but that you don't really. I'm like, yes, honey, I know what happened in my mind didn't translate well in English. But yes, I wasn't Jesus, but I
No,
played the
no.
Jesus role.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. It's just so that YouTube knows, okay, all
Oh
right,
yeah.
everything's
Thank you.
fine
Oh,
here. Yeah. Yeah.
thank you, YouTube.
I'm
I
just
am
teasing.
not I am not Jesus. I am playing a role of Jesus on the stage of creation.
The stage of creation.
But I disempowered so many people because we're trained. We're
Mhm.
trained. Everybody's disempowered.
Yeah.
The only person that you need to save is yourself
Every time.
every single time. And
Yep.
that's something that's another trigger. We might as well like put it on the list of serial killers and all these big
Yeah.
things. Because that's like, what do you mean? It's selfish to take care of myself. And
Mhm.
I'm still learning this year. This is the first year when I was just turning 44, where I began to know what self-love is. I had no idea what it was. I
Mhm.
didn't know. I kind of struggled. Like, what does self like? Okay, we have aspect of what love means, but no, like self-love means honoring
Mhm.
you fully, honoring your physical vessel, which I'm working on because I have back issues ever since I woke. It's another thing. I can't walk for a week sometimes, spine issues and
Mhm.
disc that propelled me into, and I was really muscular and like really like looked sexy and blah blah blah, which I still look sexy but in a different way. LOL, I have to love myself. But I lost all my muscle mass because I was afraid of running. I could not go to the gym because if like one spine like goes out of alignment and literally on the ground can't walk for a week, I can't pee, I can't wipe myself, I can't even get out of the bed like out of fear of pain. It was
Yeah, it's
intense
not
this
worth
year.
it to go and push it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
but I'm learning like this year to view my body as a vessel that holds this creation.
Hmm.
Like, and that's self-love. To take care of my skin, right? To do my nails, whatever, to go for a walk, to relax my mind, to not burden myself with the rest of the world, not to disempower my mom and dad and brother and my, a homeless guy on the street and everybody else.
Mhm.
And let's talk about that for 1 second. The disempowering of all of those, literally, when we disempower people, we are sending them energy to remind them, in a sense, that they are disempowered.
Yes.
So the whole idea, so I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure there's homelessness all over like the world, but like we have homelessness here. And I'm sharing this example with you so you can understand the shift of how I used to see homelessness and now how I see homelessness from an empowered state. Like, in the past, you would see them, oh my God, he's homeless on the street, it's cold, it's not blah, blah, blah. Give food, give money, do this, do that, give a jacket, like donate, whatever, the human thing we do,
Mhm.
which is nice and awesome and cool and dandy. But at the same time, I'm viewing him as not enough, as like some karmic thing that he did for himself. The mantises said clearly, because somebody asked a question about that, and they came in and said, "Oh my God, this beautiful like message," and I'm just kind of translating of what I know. It's not like verbatim, and like they said, imagine you like seeing the idea of homelessness and anything else that's like disempowered from the following view: how powerful of a creator this being must be to have chosen, and I'm getting chills all over my body, to live a life, the illusion of this empowerment, to allow himself not to remember he's empowered enough to get himself out of that state, but through that experience, he allows you to open your heart and expand and be like more, and then like be more compassionate. So it
Mhm.
clicked in my head that, oh my God, like instead of me driving down the street and thinking, oh, he's homeless or he's on the street, I'm driving down the street thanking him for being such a powerful creator, more powerful than me, to have chosen that path to allow my heart to expand, to give me the gift to have and know that my heart is bigger than I thought it was.
Mhm.
And by doing that, I'm sending him energy of re-empowerment. That I don't see you as a different, a disempowered, homeless guy or girl or woman. I see you as a beautiful, strong ass being that can remember you are strong and you can get yourself out of that in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
Shifts of frequency and vibration, shifts of seeing things. And that's how we begin creating a world, what people say of New Earth, begin shifting and empowering, you know? Um, and then the savior complex, right? The
Yes.
Jesus. I can never save anyone. And I've proved to myself over and over and over again, and I didn't see it over and over and over again because I kept saving people over and over and over again, disempowering them. No wonder we disable, right? Is that the word disable? Not disable people. What's the word? Um, 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 we enable them to be in the same paradigm of being like disempowered. You help them with money or you help them with this and you assist and you assist. Well, you're not giving them tools to help themselves,
Mhm.
which actually the whole like paradigm of them being in the same cycle that I
Mhm.
couldn't see for the longest time, but I thought I was doing the right thing was not really helping them,
Mhm.
you know? Um, but then you also get to the point where you realize you cannot help others. You have to help yourself, right? Anyhow, the only Jesus you want to be is for yourself. The only savior is for yourself.
Yep.
Because from that vibration and frequency, you really are able to help others from a more aligned, empowered state and not a disempowered state. Because the more you feel disempowered within and misaligned, you're making choices based on that vibration. You're continuing that old paradigm of disempowerment. So, self, self, self. And again, on the grander context that some people may not get, but you'll get one day, or maybe you'll never get in this lifetime, you get in another lifetime. There's only one of us,
Mhm.
you. So there's only me right now. I'm the creator. I'm God. I'm Jesus. I'm all of it. Creating all of YouTube. I'm not Jesus. I'm playing the role of Jesus. Creating all of you as separate from me to learn from that experience.
Yes.
And the same is Kate. She's the only God,
And
only
everything
creator.
here is something I've created in order to reflect my own soul and self back at me and then beam me up to another life somehow, some way, whenever the time is. And we don't chase that.
And the same with you. Whoever's watching this, you
Yes.
are the only creator creating me and Kate as separate from you to give us these lessons.
Exactly.
That's really what we're all about. And we're
Exactly.
interconnected like with each other. There's never a disconnection. Men always talk about, we speak of oneness, humanity speaks of oneness. They say, la, 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 we're one, we're one. You don't understand. Literally, we're interconnected with energy because we're never separate. It's the illusion of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just one last joke on
Of course.
stage.
Yes.
And it was so funny. And I realized I'm really funny. Like my husband really doesn't think I'm funny. He's like, I'm like, babe, don't worry about it. I'm laughing in my head. That's all that matters. But but now I know that mantises are really funny because a few other people that connect with mantises say, oh my God, they're really funny. I'm like, wow. So I think that's where I get my funniness from. So on stage, I witnessed myself being funny and people like, wow, people are laughing at my jokes. Yay. It was so cool. But they talked about the idea of how humanity is dying to have contact. We cannot wait for the aliens to come and they come down the ship. And when are we going to have contact? This desire to have contact. And they literally said, like, there was a whole pause of like, let's kind of dissect this for a second. You want to meet an alien that doesn't resemble like you, first of all, doesn't even have your vibration and frequency, and you want to come with an unconditional loving aspect to that new idea, yet the neighbor next to you that looks like you, the same color, may have one different thought than you, and you cannot stand them and you hate them.
Mm-hmm.
How can humanity say we are ready to know more about the infinite and receive beings literally that may look alien in all alien formats with a different vibration frequency? How is that going to occur when you cannot even do that within your own realm, where everyone literally looks like you? You feel safe, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Be careful what you're asking for, like in a sense. And contact will occur when our humanity is able to unconditionally love self and everyone else and everything else. Because on that vibration and frequency, when you know what unconditional love is, you'll be able to receive all forms of creation. But like they said it from a very like funny way, like you want an insectoid being to land on Earth
Yeah, you
looking
really want
very
to try
insect.
that?
I know. And you can even love somebody who looks exactly like you, identical, if not like 99.99% they're like you. Maybe they have one thought they don't vibrate and you hate them and you kill them. You go to war with each other and you look like each other and you want something else that doesn't resemble you to come Earth and say, I love you unconditionally. That's exactly what they said. I love you unconditionally.
Right.
So when you begin thinking on those terms, you're like, wow, okay, no wonder we don't have contact yet. Now, having said that, there are people that have had contacts because we can't because we're on our we're
Yep.
creating our own reality. So if you are vibrating within your sphere and within your community on an unconditional, like loving space and expanding that way, yes, you will have contact. And I have my own ways of contact, and I'm sure many of your audience do too. But as a collection of humans, as humanity,
The
for
acknowledgement, that feeling of
acknowledgement, we need
contact,
exactly
right?
we
The
need
commitment of contact being
totally.
factual.
And that begins with us
It
beginning to
does.
show ourselves that each country, each language, each whatever, we all love each other as a global citizen. And the whole idea that I'm American and like you're Lebanese, that's all bullshit. That's more separation. We're global citizens, global,
I
universal
keep asking
citizens.
them, honestly, this is one of my most major complaints, I think, which means I'm living a very good life,
Yeah,
which is that I wish that there was like a global passport, you know? I just want to be a citizen of the globe and more, a globe and
totally.
galaxy, perhaps. It's just funny. There's just such a tiny little anecdote sticking in my mind here that made me chuckle at like the humanness of it. I think, for me at least, back, I think I must have been in high school or something, but I had this ex-boyfriend. We were standing on this beautiful, there was like a lake, kind of, slow part of a river, and the sand dunes, so that you walk, so it looks like you're standing in the
Yeah,
middle of the water, but your
yeah,
feet are like barely under the water. There's moonlight being cast, glittery. The romantic in my mind was thinking, wow, this is a great opportunity for a moment of connection. Love this.
yeah.
My ex-partner, my ex-boyfriend, just a high school fling, said, if an alien came down here right now and said, you can come with me and you can go to all these unexplored realms and see colors you couldn't have even imagined, and you have to go right now and you can't say goodbye to anyone, would you go? And so I sit and give a good philosophical moment. That's interesting, huh? Well, is there any promise of coming back? Absolutely none. And I said, well, is there any percentage? Can I have more information? Like,
What's the
we're trying to get,
probability?
yeah,
What's the
this is,
probability of coming
I'm the
back?
ask why and ask, I'll find all the loops, kind of kid. And I'm thinking, yeah, and I'm still, trying to process even why is he even asking me this? And I say, eventually, even though that sounds really interesting, there's a lot that I feel I need to do here. And I don't think I could leave my mom with that question, even knowing it's just, to the rest of her days that she would be in there going like, because the search would be endless. The search would be until I was found, and then I would never be found. And how shocking, horrible that would be. And then the moment, oh, okay. The moment sort of pauses and I say, okay, what's your answer? He go, oh, I'd go. I'd say, oh, but you can't even say goodbye to me, and I'm right here. He's like, yeah, I'd be gone.
And no wonder he was a fling. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's a joke. No,
No, that's true.
no. But listen. I'm really happy. I'm really funny, guys. I think at least I think I am. But when you said fling earlier, immediately I was like, nope, he's an ascended master. So, in which you know that. So,
Yes,
guys, for you, when you have a life review like this, so this is a small like life review, although
yes.
Kate was just sharing with us that moment. Know that every person that came into your life, every dog, every swoop of wind, every stare at the sunlight, all of it is ascended mastery,
Mhm.
connection between beings and consciousness. So,
That moment was great teaching for me. I mean, I still, reflect on it now. And so there is, and in all forms, however we're labeling it, we can laugh about the surface
yeah.
level of it. But honestly, there is like such a depth to every single interaction that I've experienced has been a part of this
Now, the
amazing
grand,
weaving.
yeah, sorry. Now, the
No,
grand
go ahead.
question is, it's like, da 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 da. The grand question is the feeling still here?
On Earth, yes.
He is, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I know that. I think it's a nice idea for them, but who knows? Who knows? Could be tomorrow, right? I wouldn't know actually, to be honest. Maybe
Listen,
they're already gone. It's been a
yeah,
couple of
totally,
years. I don't know.
exactly. And he's a doppelganger. They're like, this
Yeah,
is, this is, no, we already abducted him. And the
yeah.
idea of abduction is so silly, by the way. That's another topic we should talk about.
Yes, in
Um,
our podcast of Through the Ages, that
totally.
is birthing now, I'm sure.
The
Um,
podcast should be the endless podcast.
yeah, yeah, the
Totally the
vastness,
best.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, it's been so lovely having you here, sharing in this energy with you. I know that our Oracle Fest folks are going to love learning more about your story also of self-empowerment, because that is really what it is at a base. You can hear channeling praying mantis beings, and yes, you're going to get so much depth and so much wisdom. We've even gleaned some today from the little bits and stories that you've shared, and the why and the what's the point, right? And the why and the what's the point is this self-empowerment thing, this inner oracle empowerment, this every being is here for their personal journey of expansion. Love what you represent, and that it also helps it get broken down in someone's mind a little easier, because it
Yes,
can feel really difficult
of course.
it can be easy to pedestal people. I'm really against pedestals as well, because I
Yeah.
come from the film background and I didn't
Yeah.
like that vibe. I don't think anyone should be some higher status. We're just all doing jobs,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it really does disempower you to think. And it also, um, it really limits the amount that you can understand, because then suddenly you've got a confine and a place where everyone is. Whereas if we are all on this infant who was just born into the world yesterday, and this, centenarian, what are they called?
Uh, cent
Centenarian?
what
Cent-
what are those?
People who have lived over 100 years old?
Oh, sure. I almost said
Centurion?
Centurions, but that's
Yeah,
another
centurion.
planet. Is it? I don't know.
It's something
Century?
people
Is century
know.
100? Oh
People
God.
who've lived over 100,
The
right?
human language.
Right. There's no
So
change in status between this, right? But that there's like beingness in all people, that pure, that is this we are one mentality that we look to kind of keep adopting. And so I love how you explain the many ways that can ripple out into different expressions.
yes. And remember, guys, just last message from the man says, each and every one of you, because you're creation and you're the creator, you're a valuable member of all.
Mm-hmm.
Your ingredient, literally, your blueprint. However, I want to use the F word so bad. However screwed up it is, but you can imagine the F word.
Yeah.
You think, however screwed up you think that is, those are magical ingredients allowing you to expand. So embrace every part of who you are, love every part of who you are, be the more that you are. Expand more, even if you don't have a desire to do anything, which that's also part of creation, a funny part of creation. If you have a desire to just sit on the couch all day for the next 20 years, fine. Push yourself to do a little more. Whatever it is, Because you don't know what that little more, what gifts, what wisdom, what messages will give you. And by you surrendering into not knowing what it is, and who cares about the label, and just do, right? If you feel like you want to take a drive, just drive for an hour. You don't know what messages you get, what awakenings, but it's the surrender into not knowing and needing to label it and create this whole dramatic reason why I need to do that. Surrender will literally unlock the magic. Why? Because you're not limiting yourself. You're not putting expectation on what's going to happen. And believe me when I say the more that you be, the more that you realize the wisdom is within you, that you have access to everything, knowledge, information, beauty, sadness, all of it. Yes, the dark side of you, which by creation doesn't see dark like that, but let's say the dark, you are that. And you are the light, and you are the neutral, you all of it. You're infinite, but you are valuable. Not for a second, for a moment, think that you are not a valued member of all creation, that your ingredient is key, and listen to this, is key to keep the fabric of creation, to keep the creation as creation. That's how important each and every one of you is. That if you don't exist, which that cannot happen because you exist. Let's assume your ingredient doesn't exist, this whole paradigm will crumble.
Mm-hmm.
That's how important you are. Don't forget that.
Beautiful. Beautiful, profound message to leave us on. I'm not
Thank
even going to
you.
say too much else other than I can't wait to hear more from you at OracleFest. And
I
thank you
love you,
for being a
honey.
part of it. And
Thank
I
you.
know we're all so blessed for being in
Thank
each
you.
other's lives.
Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for following your heart. And
Of course.
thank you for having this platform to allow all these beings to be here, to allow all these voices to be heard. Because we all resonate with one human or another, and we're all permission slips to allow us more to remember. So I can't wait for the fest. Um, and maybe Timon live on stage.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead. When we have it in person, you're going to have to step it up though, okay?
Oh,
I don't
totally.
I don't want what you've been given all these basic things. When we're in person, there's a real OracleFest festival. I want you fully unleashed, okay? That's the guarantee.
I'll be in lingerie.
I'll be joining you.
Perfect. I don't know how that's
What
gonna
a
work,
sight to
but
see. No
we're
one's going
gonna
to
have
show
to.
now.
I know we're gonna have to limit certain parts of the body.
Yeah.
Speaking of
All right, we're
limitation.
gonna have a dress code. All right, I'll get working on that dress code.
Okay,
Thanks,
okay.
Tony.